Thank you for having me here to make a short presentation on the Citizenship by Investment program. I know we talk about resilience, and the CBI program is one of the key factors in the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the last budget, I believe the Prime Minister identified the Citizenship by Investment program as being responsible for about 30% of revenue. So it is very, very important to the country and to what I do. Now, my responsibility is basically marketing, being responsible for the marketing initiatives, and also for running the operations and making sure that we are as competitive as we can be while staying within the constraints and ensuring that we have the right due diligence and governance practices. So I've scaled down my presentations twofold, and the first I'd like to just show a short video which we prepared for the Prime Minister, and it's an introductory to CBI that we use in some of our presentations overseas. So can I have that presentation, please? So I promised it will be short. It is. So now we'll go over to a PowerPoint presentation that I have scaled down, and I will flip through very quickly so that we can get to a question and answer session later on. All right. You would have heard Minister Brandley talk about being the #1 in the OCS in terms of quality of passport. So this is one of the things that we show in our various presentations, and we continue to build on this. As at right now, we stand at about 158 visa-free and visa upon entry countries. And this is the highest in the OECS, and it's the third in terms of the Caribbean behind Barbados and the Bahamas. Minister Brantley has promised in a certain presentation in Dubai earlier this year that we would probably be #1 by the summer of this year. And I hope that you all will help make that happen. The program is the oldest since 1984. And this year we celebrate the 35th anniversary of Citizenship by Investment. And we'll talk a little about that. So we have been recognized as the leader in citizenship, the leader in CBI programs, and we've had over 12,000 economic citizens coming from different parts of the world, primarily about 60% coming out of China, another 25 to 30% coming out of the Middle East, and another 10% coming out of Europe and Russia. In terms of markets, I'll have to say that we continue to see the trend in China. We continue to see the trend in the Middle East. New markets coming out of Vietnam and Cambodia from the statistics that I'm seeing. And Russia seems to have tapered off. Every now and then we get a few applications there, but they seem to be going to Malta and Cyprus. And when we talk about competition, although we were the first, right now there are something like 15 programs across the world. And Malta, Cyprus, Moldova, Montenegro, these are all programs. Then you have the Golden Visa programs in Portugal and Spain, all competing for the same resources that we're looking for, which is foreign direct investment. So why St. Kitts? Tax advantages, no withholding tax, no capital gains tax, no personal income tax. So again, I'm just highlighting some of the key points, and I am able to provide you with copies of our presentations as we go forward. There is no residency requirement. So again, when one looks at the other programs, like for example, one might argue, well, why not Antigua? Antigua has a 5-year period, and you have to visit 5 days in the 5 years. and then you have to go through a recertification process. You can add dependents below the age of 30, and the ability to add qualified dependents anytime after citizenship. We also provide the ability to do financial sponsorship, which means that the main applicant does not necessarily have to have the financial backing, as long as they have someone who is willing to put up the capital, and we can run due diligence on the individual who is providing the financial support. What are our options? There are two options in the St. Kitts and Nevis program. There is the real estate option, and there is the sustainable growth fund. The real estate option is $400,000. That's a minimum investment in real estate, plus government fees. And with that option, the individual can resell after 5 years. We introduced last year a new option, which was a $200 minimum investment in real estate plus government fees, and this is more of a share option for high-end hotels. With that option, though, what we did, we could not just give it a monopoly to one developer, so we opened it up to other developers who had unsold units. And those unsold units, they can apply, and we allow them to split their 400,000 to 200,000. And this has made it more competitive. The key factor here that I'd like to mention, if it comes up to anyone, is that if someone bought 5 years ago and it's up for resale, and they bought at 400,000, they cannot split into two. They'll have to get special approval through Skipper and Cabinet to be able to split the shares before that. There is the second option of investment, which is the contribution method, or the SGF, Sustainable Growth Fund. A lot of you would have heard of the Hurricane Relief Fund. The Hurricane Relief Fund was a limited time option that we had from around September 2017 that ran most of last year. We still have the SIDF, Sugar Industry Diversified Fund. That has not closed yet, but that's at a higher price, so we're not seeing applications there. The applications are coming in into the SGF. This is a little a slide that just talks about the various fees related to our real estate option. It's $35,000, $10,000, $7,500. This is what a client can expect to pay for investment in real estate. Some of the projects that we have ongoing right now is the Ramada Inn by Galaxy Real Estate, Wyndham by T-Loft, Koi Resort, Christoph Harbor, which is our high-end, one of the high-end, Park Hyatt, which is a hotel that was opened at the end of 2017, Golden Rock Development, which is a commercial real estate residential program, Hamilton Beach Resort, a boutique hotel out in Nevis, and then the Four Seasons villas in Nevis. So these are a number of the key projects that we have that are active and that we are seeing sales into at this point in time. The Sustainable Growth Fund is a direct contribution, inclusive of all government fees, $150,000 for a single applicant, and for a family of four, it's $195,000. Any numbers over four, it's $10,000 per applicant. What is the Sustainable Growth Fund used for? It is used, it represents the ongoing advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis to realize their potential as a prospering small island nation with an accelerating economy. The fund will be used to enhance the quality of education, ensure the health of well-being, develop climate resiliency, build solid and sustainable infrastructure, promote St. Kitts tourism sector and share the distinct cultural flavor of the nation's people, support indigenous entrepreneurship. These funds go into the consolidated fund that is managed by Cabinet. So there is no one piece of the fund that is used that one can say we're going to give to this industry or this ministry or so on. It has to be approved through Cabinet and the various business cases presented there. Some of the latest developments in our program, we started to introduce the biometrics. We got the legislation passed on that, and we're working through the various vendors and technology to collect biometrics, which is basically fingerprinting and identity verification. We have just signed the new escrow bill and the controls around the escrow bill. It's intended to strengthen the way we manage our real estate projects and also to protect the client. So we will be introducing more controls around the escrow bill. For example, we are going to be introducing a payout schedule that's based on construction. This is different from the way things were done in the past. Previously, an escrow bill basically, escrow agreement basically covered or was based on approval of citizenship, not on construction. So again, we're making all strides to strengthen and tighten the controls around real estate. We have the fast track service, and the fast track service, I must reiterate, it is a fast track. We pay extra money to our due diligence companies, but it does not compromise our due diligence process. One thing about St. Kitts and Nevis is that we have one of the strongest due diligence process. I've just been given a note that my time is up. There was a slide, I'm sorry, I have to just talk about quick process. Due diligence is the most important feature in our program. We ensure that we run due diligence through a number of different mechanisms. Controls are in place from the time that an application goes in through an agent, through an international marketing agent, through a service provider, and through the CIU. So due diligence is something that we emphasize a lot. I'm just putting some slides up here, and we'll run away. Sorry. Takeaway, CIU does not issue passports. I want everyone to be aware of that. The CIU's only contact point in the processing of an application is with a service provider. I know some of you may have contacts with clients and would come to me and try to get answers on that client. The service provider has a power of attorney to represent the client and to get information for the client. And that's the person legally, by legislature, I have to interact with. Okay, so just to make that point, I know a question that quickly comes up is the addition of newborns, which should be forwarded to national security. We don't want to see it in the unit, otherwise we'll charge you $10,000. National security, you probably pay about $500. Two common reasons for denials, so that you're aware. A visa refusal from a country with whom we have visa-free access. That's one reason we will deny an application, and security alerts. Be aware that there are banking issues, correspondent banking, clearing of funds is an issue for me, and I'm open to discuss later. The last slide that I want to bring to your attention is that this year, as I mentioned, we're celebrating the 35 years of Caribbean CBI. We are hosting in June the Caribbean Investment Summit, and it will be made up of all 5 Caribbean islands. We will be hosting that event here in St. Kitts and Nevis on June 19th to the 21st. So it's an opportunity to find out about our program, deal with the issues that are important to the Caribbean and the industry. And as such, actually, I'm just going to close off. I'm sorry. Thank you.
As we all know, tourism is our main economic driver in the Caribbean. In St. Kitts and Nevis, travel and tourism represents 25% of total employment, which is consistent with the regional figure of tourism creating 1 in every 4 jobs in the Caribbean. As dependent economies, as our economies are on tourism, climate change represents the single greatest threat to our livelihoods. As the 2017 hurricane season still looms large in our minds, one of the major effects of climate change, natural disasters, can decimate our destinations with little to no warning. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, the 2017 season resulted in an estimated loss of 826,100 visitors to our region that year compared to pre-hurricane forecasts. As a matter of fact, those visitors could have generated $741 million and over 11,000 jobs, which instead we missed out on. Research suggests that recovery to previous levels could take us up to 4 years, and if that is the case, over $3 billion over that time would have slipped from our grasp. We simply cannot sustain these losses, not now and not in the future, as they only worsen. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we were largely spared from physical damage by the 2017 hurricanes. Of course, this was only just by chance. By contrast, the destruction of 2017 spun one of our closest neighbors, Anguilla, into a deficit of $45.4 million East Caribbean dollars as compared to their previous deficit projection of EC $10 million. Indeed, we know that a large portion of our national debt in the region is due to borrowing to rebuild infrastructure destroyed by storms. And even when some of us in the region, like St. Kitts and Nevis, escape the path of a major storm, we still suffer from that storm. For example, in 2017, the public perception in our visitor source markets was that the entire Caribbean was ravaged. They wrote us off for the season, which damaged the entire region. Indirect effects, even those due to public misunderstanding, can harm us just as much as the direct effects. The overall impacts we experience from climate change severely threaten the development gains we are trying hard to build and to capitalize on, not just in tourism, but in other sectors of our economies. Detailed climate modeling projections for St. Kitts and Nevis have predicted an increase in our average atmospheric temperature, future decreased rainfall, increased surface temperatures, and further increases in the frequency and intensity of storms. Already, the coastline of our prime beaches and bays have been affected by sea level rise. Just a few years ago, the beach at our beloved Strip had to be replenished, costing the government of St. Kitts and Nevis millions of dollars. And in just a matter of a few years, we are already experiencing depletion and having to invest in coastline replenishment all over again. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have experienced drought conditions since 2015, and scientists have said that this has been the first time in 50 years. We've had to introduce water rationing, suspend the sale of water to cruise ships, and we've seen a drop in our agricultural yield. Our coral reef and biodiversity have also been adversely affected, hampering our tourism product and our ocean health at large. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis and our Ministry of Tourism have adopted a number of climate mitigation and adaptation initiatives nationally, and we are continuing to work with regional counterparts as we have chosen a decidedly poor people and poor planet approach to tourism, which we are convinced will help to make us more resilient. The mission of the St. Kitts Ministry of Tourism is to provide a consistently outstanding visitor experience through sustainable development of the human, natural, and cultural resources of St. Kitts in order to maximize opportunity, prosperity, and quality of life for the present and future generations of all citizens. To this end, we are pursuing a dual approach by one, building resilience and security into our existing infrastructure and sector activities, and two, pursuing a systemic change in our institutions and approaches to traditional activities such as tourism and agriculture. In addition to our efforts to adapt to climate impacts, we are also beginning to do our part to reduce our own energy footprint. We are taking measures for energy efficiency and renewable energy, most notably solar power, which we need to continue to expand. What I'd like to focus on today is our response to the inexorable link between tourism activity and climate change. In St. Kitts, we have been investing considerable resources to changing the way tourism is perceived, not only locally, but also regionally and globally. Tourism by its own nature is an extractive activity. Managing it sustainably requires a complex balance of close cooperation beyond what any of our individual organizations or destinations can do alone. We in St. Kitts are focused on sustainable destination management, bringing our stakeholders across sectors together to carefully plan and harmonize our regular activities according to a common sustainable management plan. We are actually very proud to be among the first destinations in the world to have undergone the Global Sustainable Tourism Council's criteria for destinations in 2012. The GSTC assessment included a community engagement process to prioritize which best practice recommendations for our destination sustainability our people found to be most important to act upon to protect our natural, social, and cultural resources while benefiting our residents to the maximum extent. Since then, we have partnered with an international NGO, Sustainable Travel International, to implement our growing sustainable destination management agenda. In 2013, we formed the St. Kitts Sustainable Destination Council, a cross-sector destination management organization that brings public and private sector together to advance sustainable development in St. Kitts. We are one of the pioneering destinations in the world following this model of cross-sector collaboration for destination management. Since the establishment of the Sustainable Destination Council, or SDC, the group has demonstrated how this model of participatory tourism planning can pay dividends for our people above all. We are focused on making our destination a wonderful place to live and thereby making it a wonderful place for tourists to visit. For this reason, our motto is good for us, better for all. Achievements of the Destination Council thus far include the revision of the tourism sector strategy to be more focused on environmental sustainability, cultural heritage protection, people empowerment, and economic competitiveness. We have undertaken comprehensive training for businesses, government, and community members in a range of topics including sustainability practices, sustainable tourism communications, and participatory planning for sustainable destination management. We were also co-hosts of the Climate Smart Sustainable Tourism Forum in partnership with the Caribbean Tourism Organization in 2017 following the storms. We launched several platforms for young people in our tourism education program. Programs such as our annual Restaurant Week and Market Access for local artisans focus on connecting local producers to potential customers. We have public awareness programs, including our current program on plastic-free St. Kitts, Nevis. We often hear of visitor satisfaction surveys being undertaken in the tourism sector, but in St. Kitts, we were one of the first destinations to conduct a resident perception survey to make sure that we are meeting our people's aspirations as an important pillar in sustainable development. Results from this survey show that 80% of our residents agree that tourism in St. Kitts is more good than bad. 91% said that tourism should be actively encouraged in St. Kitts. 65% feel that tourism development improves the quality of life in St. Kitts. The Sustainable Destination Council also created the Heart of St. Kitts Foundation and the Heart of St. Kitts Sustainability Charter. The same Destination Council has earned international recognition as a sustainable tourism leader, first by winning the CTO's Destination Stewardship Award in 2014, the CTO's Excellence in Sustainable Award in 2017, and most recently, we are proud of our biggest accolade to date. St. Kitts and Nevis Sustainable Destination Council is the current winner of the World Travel and Tourism Council's Tourism for Tomorrow Award in the Destination Stewardship category. This is the world's highest award in sustainable tourism, and it belongs to our entire country as it rewards our collective efforts to protect our precious natural and cultural beauty, which makes St. Kitts a great place to live as well as to visit. Regional initiatives, the main thrust of our sustainable destination management focus is that if we are to truly protect our islands from climate impacts, we cannot do what we've always done. We must fundamentally change the way we manage tourism and do business with our partners, be they investors, developers, and others. For too long, our Caribbean destinations and our natural cultural resources have been perilously on the losing side of the equation. We need to fortify our structures for cooperation to systematically take control of our own destiny. I am encouraged by regional initiatives such as a project recently launched by the OAS to tackle one of our most critical needs under the project Building Resilience of Small Tourism Enterprises in the Caribbean to Disasters. Our small businesses need better access to capital to build so that they are not crippled beyond repair by a storm. We hope to build lasting relationships with our visiting diplomats and colleagues abroad to help foster this needed support for our entrepreneurs' resilience. We have a booming small business sector, and investments would prove fruitful for our overseas investment partners. A key outcome for this project is a crisis communication strategy for the tourism sector, which we need to avoid the perils of 2017. I also note that the University of the West Indies recently launched a Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center at its Mona campus. Of course, we do not need to reinvent the wheel. There are excellent examples of good practices to be gleaned from recovery and resilience from storms in other parts of the world as well. We need to build stronger networks and partnerships around issues of key focus, including good practices for building back better and withstanding natural disasters. So therefore, we look forward to our visiting diplomats for connections on that front. St. Kitts and Nevis and the Ministry of Tourism are enthusiastic about enhancing our international cooperation, and I look forward to meeting with our partners who may be interested in exchanging ideas on any of the topics that we have covered. With that, I say thank you, and I'm pleased to be a part of this morning's discussions.
The St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, as other investment promotion agencies around the world, our key function is to attract foreign direct investment into the country, while at the same time promoting local investment. And we do that through a number of initiatives. So our core functions, of course, first and foremost, involve investment promotion, as the name implies. And so our activities involve advertising in magazines, attending trade shows, attending conferences to attract foreign direct investment to St. Kitts. So Skipper is responsible for attracting foreign direct investment into St. Kitts and Nevis, and we have our sister counterpart in Nevis, NIPA, which is responsible for attracting foreign direct investment into Nevis. So Skipper really is the front door of investment. All projects seeking to be established in St. Kitts must be submitted to Skipper for review and processing. So our services involve facilitation, access to concessions, approvals, and what have you. For us at Skipper, resilience, we interpret resilience in terms of how we innovate, how do we change, how do we adapt as the global economy changes, and how do we continue to respond so that we can continue to attract foreign direct investment. And we do that through 6 main priority sectors for investment. Tourism, everyone is quite aware, is the driving force for the economy. And our focus in terms of attracting foreign direct investment in tourism has been heavily focused on the real estate sector. We have tourism, financial services, information technology, agriculture, light manufacturing, and education services. So we start with tourism. Prospects for growth in tourism remains high and very optimistic for 2019, 2020 and beyond. As Lescan said, it's largely driven by investment by the CBI program, and is characterized by investment in real estate. Currently, we are reviewing a number of large-scale projects, so that gives us a projection that we believe that the outlook for investment in the real estate sector is very positive. Just to give you a brief glimpse of some of the projects that are ongoing, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because Les can review them briefly, but just to give you a quick synopsis of some of the projects that are currently under construction. And by our estimates, we're expecting that the Tilof development, the Koi development, and the Ramada will open at least some phase of their development in 2019. Just to give you some of the projects that are already completed, I'm not going to dwell here again because Les went over some of these. The King's Pavilion is a brand new hotel that just opened this year in 2019. It's probably the only true downtown hotel in the heart of the business district of Bastia. It's located at Port Zante. It's a 22-room hotel. Of course, we know the Park Hyatt, Beach and Golf, and St. Kitts Castle. Those are some of the success stories of investment in real estate and the tourism sector. Now, the government have used the CBI program, the real estate component of the CBI program, very successfully to grow the hotel room stock. So that is very critical for us in terms of growing the number of hotel rooms on the island, which is directly related also to supporting the airlift. Over the past few months, Skipper has been involved in an exercise in terms of drilling down beyond the broad sector, priority sectors for investment. A number of times when we attend trade missions, we attend trade shows, we speak to potential investors. We get the question, what activity in terms of investment would you want to see in St. Kitts? And so we have been involved in an exercise to drill down so that we can come up with those answers. And these are some of those answers. And this is important for you as our eyes and ears in the investment market, that when you hear these questions, these are some of the answers that you can provide. What are you looking for in St. Kitts and Nevis? A hospitality school. That is one of the areas that we're keenly interested in. EcoPark is a facility that is now owned by government. It was developed by the Taiwan Republic of China and Taiwan. And it presents an excellent opportunity to develop what I think would be a agriculture facility with also a tourism component. We've had interest in terms of EcoPark, in terms of development of different types of farming, such as greenhouse farming and vertical farming. So that is an area that we would want you to take note of in terms of activities that will be suitable for St. Kitts and Nevis. High-end dining, as it will support the tourism sector, as Ms. Taylor said. Port Zante, with the construction of the third pier, presents investment opportunities. Boutique hotel, more commercial space at Port Zante. Whitegate development has a vast expanse of land that are still available for development. Of course, Whitegate area is where we have the Kitchen Hill and the Beaumont Park racetrack. So there's already some development in that area. And so that is an area that is open for investment again. In terms, coming back to tourism, investment in convention center, construction of a convention center, which we believe will bring a different type of visitor to St. Kitts and Nevis, that is the meeting visitor. Now we go to financial services. So from tourism to financial services. Financial services is another one of the sector that we promote to attract investment. And this slide just gives you a brief snapshot of some of the entities that are registered under the St. Kitts registry. Private companies, private exempt companies, external companies. What I would want you to take away from this slide is a focus on foundations. That is one of the entities that has been doing very well for us on the St. Kitts registry. A foundation is set up to benefit an offspring or someone or some entity, but it's one of the products that has been doing extremely well. And so as you speak to potential investors about investment in the international financial services sector, foundations will be a good one to encourage persons to invest in St. Kitts. Just to give you a quick snapshot of the in terms of the number of entities. Captive insurance, trust and corporate services, 47 trust and corporate service providers. Les spoke about the corporate the service providers that each application must go through, and these corporate service providers are licensed by the Financial Services Regulatory Commission. And that just gives you a quick snapshot of how many persons or entities are licensed there. Information technology is the third sector that I want to focus on. The ICT sector currently is developing its ICT development strategy. Of course, in order to develop any sector, we would need to put in place the legislative and regulatory framework, and that is being worked on. A heavy component of that regulatory framework will be focusing on education, of course, and certification. Opportunities in the ICT sector, BPO, data processing, software development, and credit card processing, which we understand is a huge opportunity for us in St. Kitts. And I just want to go quickly to agriculture, because I believe that this is a sector that is very dear to all of us in an era of food safety and food security. It's important that we in St. Kitts and Nevis are able to feed ourselves, and we have to focus very heavily on our investment in agriculture. Like I said, the number one priority is to reduce our food import bill. And the opportunities, but we must focus on smart agriculture. Being a small country, we cannot focus on large expanse of land, but I believe that we can explore new technologies that are coming aboard and new ways of farming. Vertical farming is the one such way where farming is done using high-rise buildings. So they're not using large expanse of land, but building structures that goes vertically. Hydroponics, greenhouses, or other activities that we need to focus on. There's tremendous opportunity for farming in terms of the exports to neighboring islands, St. Martin, Antigua, St. Thomas, and also locally in terms of providing our hotels with fresh produce. There's a lot of opportunities, and just before I leave agriculture, I must point out, because this is something that you're going to get a lot of questions at, in terms of what are the opportunities for joint venture. And it's something that we promote very much in agriculture is joint venture partnership. There are opportunities for joint venture in agro-processing. Our agro-processors have done an excellent job in terms of developing their product. However, they would need further assistance in terms of taking that product to market and taking that product to the export market. So there is potential in agro-processing. We have an excellent facility here in St. Kitts and Nevis, which is a fish farm. And this is where this entrepreneur has successfully used tilapia, which is a freshwater fish, and introduced salt water. And so the tilapia that is grown on this fish farm is actually saltwater tilapia. So this is an excellent opportunity for joint venture partnership in terms of growing this business, because this is unique. And if we can grow this business through joint venture partnership where we can begin to feed ourselves and export, this will be an excellent opportunity. Light manufacturing, I think, is one of the success stories that is very few people know about. For St. Kitts and Nevis, we want to focus heavily on trying to grow this sector by focusing on more conferences that deals with manufacturing. And in this sector, we want to focus on high-tech assembly, looking at medical devices, again, is another area that is of keen interest to us. And one of the reasons why we want to focus on high-value products is so that we are able to attract not jobs that focus on a race to the bottom, not jobs that focus on low wages, but on jobs that focus on more high-skill, higher wages. And so we want to focus more on technology, medical devices. Those are some of the areas that we want to go into. Just to give you a quick snapshot of some of the plants that are still in operational, we have the Electrofab, Jawo Electronics, and Cajola, and these companies have been doing an excellent job and exporting to the United States and Europe. And the last sector that I want to focus on, because this is a very critical sector for us, is the education sector, or what we call the universities. This sector contributes about 12% to our GDP. And so if we can continue to attract universities and schools to St. Kitts and Nevis, it will make a significant impact, because we have, currently there are 5 accredited institutions or 5 registered institutions on St. Kitts and 1 in Nevis, bringing to St. Kitts and Nevis over 4,100 students, which means technically over 4,100 long-term tourists who are here for maybe 1 year, 2 years, contributing to our economy. So this is a significant area for us for growth that we would want you as our ambassadors in the investment market to spread the news and to tell the story, to tell our success stories that will help us to continue to attract investment in this sector. And so how can you help us? Like I said, you are our eyes and ears in the investment market. The St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, we are here to work with you and to assist you in terms of answering the questions of your potential investors. Any leads that you may have in terms of investment, we want you to channel them to our office, and then we will pick the lead up from there and run with it in terms of ensuring that those leads become investments. Thank you very much. I'll be available for your questions.